Two men, one idea, a billion-dollar war that changed breakfast forever. In 1894, the Kellogg brothers fought over cornflakes, and their battle taught us 10 business phrases you hear in meetings every day. Words like monopoly, market share, and hostile takeover. You'll hear each one a few times in this story, so they stay in your memory. Let's see who won the battle for breakfast. Do you forget English advanced vocabulary when you try to speak? You're not alone, and this method can help. Welcome to English Through Stories, the channel where you learn naturally by listening to real stories. Here's how it works. You'll see the bold words, hear them in the story, and remember them through repetition. Over time, this practice builds your fluency so the words come back to you automatically when you speak. The Health Resort. Battle Creek, Michigan, 1894. Dr. John Harvey Kellogg ran the world's most famous health resort, a special hospital where rich Americans came to eat healthy food and exercise. John was a brilliant doctor, but he had strange ideas. He believed that bland food made people healthier. No spices, no sugar, no flavor. His younger brother, Will Keith Kellogg, worked as his assistant. Will did everything John ordered. He managed the company's finances and the staff. He had to negotiate with suppliers for wheat and grains, but John made all final decisions. Will had no power and no respect. John paid him a very low salary. Every day the health resort served the same boring meals to patients: boiled vegetables, wheat mush, hard bread. The patients complained constantly, but John didn't care. He was the boss. He had the monopoly on ideas. He controlled everything: the recipes, the suppliers, the entire operation. The mistake that changed everything. One day in 1894, the brothers were trying to make a new type of bread. They boiled the wheat and then rolled it flat with a heavy stick to make thin sheets. But they got distracted. They left the wheat outside overnight to cool and dry. The next morning, the wheat was stale, dry, and hard. John wanted to throw it away, but Will had an idea. "What if we roll it anyway?" he suggested. They rolled the stale wheat through their machine. Instead of forming dough, it broke into thin, crispy flakes. They baked the wheat flakes and served them to patients. The patients ate them. But the reaction was disappointing. The wheat flakes were bland, boring, not particularly tasty. "They need more flavor," Will said. John disagreed. "They're healthy. That's what matters." But Will kept experimenting. He tried different grains: oats, rice, corn. He wanted to find something that tasted better. When he tried corn, everything changed. The cornflakes were lighter, crispier, and they actually tasted good. John saw an opportunity. This could help his health resort's brand recognition, and more people would learn about his health center. But he didn't see it as a business. He saw it as medicine. Will recognized something completely different. He saw a commercial product, something they could sell to millions of people. The first disagreement. "We should sell these to grocery stores," Will told his brother one evening. "I can negotiate deals with distributors across Michigan." John shook his head. "No, these flakes are for health, not for profit. We only serve them here," Will argued. But John refused to listen. The flakes would stay in the health resort. Nothing more. John's monopoly on decisions was absolute. But Will couldn't stop thinking about it. Thousands of people wanted to buy the flakes. John was saying no. It didn't make sense. Will began to realize something painful. His brother was holding him back. John had the monopoly on decisions. Will had the ideas but no power to use them. The tension between them grew. Every day, more letters arrived asking to buy the flakes. Every day, John said no, and every day, Will felt more and more frustrated. Will's secret plan. In 1906, Will made a decision that would destroy his relationship with his brother. He quit the health resort. After working for John for 25 years, taking orders, staying silent, and earning almost nothing, Will was done. He was 46 years old. He had no college education. He had very little money. But he had something more valuable: the recipe for cornflakes. John was furious. "You can't use that recipe. It belongs to the health resort. That's my intellectual property, my invention." Will disagreed. "I helped create it. I deserve to use it too." The legal battles began. John tried to stop Will from making cornflakes. He claimed the recipe was his intellectual property alone. Will fought back, hiring lawyers he could barely afford. While they argued in court, Will made a brilliant move. He started his own company, the Kellogg Toasted Cornflake Company. He didn't wait for permission. He began producing cornflakes in a small factory. He had to negotiate with corn suppliers for wheat at prices he could afford. But there was one major problem: distribution. How could he get his cornflakes to stores across America? The competition explosion. By 1906, Battle Creek had become the cereal capital of America. More than 40 companies were making cornflakes, trying to grab market share, their piece of the breakfast business. Everyone wanted what the Kellogg brothers had discovered. Most of these companies failed quickly. Their products tasted terrible. But a few succeeded. The competition was fierce, and Will needed something to be different from others. These companies had one advantage: money. They could pay distributors to carry their products. They could negotiate better deals with stores. Will had to work twice as hard just to compete. Will searched for distributors willing to take a chance on his small company. Many refused. They already carried cornflakes from bigger companies. Why should they add another? Will had to negotiate with great effort, promising better quality and lower prices. The signature strategy. Will noticed something. All the cornflake boxes looked the same. Customers couldn't tell one brand from another. There was no brand recognition at all. Will made his boxes brighter. He added color, and then he did something revolutionary. He signed every box with his own signature. W.K. Kellogg appeared on every package. This signature would create brand recognition. Customers would know which cornflakes were real Kellogg's. It was genius. Suddenly, customers could identify authentic Kellogg's cornflakes at a glance. The signature became a symbol of quality, a promise. Brand recognition started to build. Sales began to grow, slowly at first, then faster. Will was gaining market share from his competitors. His small factory couldn't keep up with demand. He needed more corn suppliers and more distributors to reach new cities. He needed to expand. John's counterattack. Meanwhile, John Harvey Kellogg watched his brother's success with growing anger. Will was making money from what John considered his intellectual property. It was unacceptable. John started his own cereal company, the Sanitas Food Company. He used a slightly different recipe and marketed it as the original health resort flakes. He tried to use his medical reputation for brand recognition. Now the brothers were in direct competition, the same family, the same invention, two separate companies fighting for the same market share. It was a hostile takeover of their relationship. All trust was gone. Only business remained. John used his reputation as a famous doctor to promote his cereal. Recommended by Dr. Kellogg, his advertisements claimed. He had some brand recognition because people knew his name from his health resort. But Will had something John didn't: business sense. Will understood distribution. He understood how to negotiate with stores and suppliers. Will knew what customers really wanted. The forbidden ingredient. Will made a decision that shocked the industry. He added sugar to his cornflakes. John was horrified. "Sugar is poison. This goes against everything we stand for. You're destroying my intellectual property." Will didn't care about John's opinions anymore. He cared about customers. And customers wanted their breakfast to taste good. He had to negotiate new contracts with sugar suppliers now. The costs increased substantially, but Will knew it was worth it. The sweetened cornflakes were a success almost instantly. Sales exploded. Soon the Kellogg's company became famous in every home, a brand with real brand recognition across America. John's Sanitas company, meanwhile, struggled. His unsweetened flakes tasted like cardboard. His market share reduced gradually each month. His distributors started removing his product because it didn't sell. The irony was painful. John, the genius doctor with decades of experience, was losing to Will, the assistant with no formal business education. Will understood something crucial. Having a monopoly on knowledge doesn't guarantee success. Expansion and domination. By 1915, Will's company was producing 200,000 cases of cornflakes daily. His distribution network reached every state. He had contracts with hundreds of distributors from New York to California. Will constantly worked to improve his distribution system. He built warehouses in major cities. He hired salesmen to negotiate with grocery stores. He made sure Kellogg's cornflakes were available everywhere. His competitors tried to copy his strategies, but Will was always one step ahead. When they tried to steal his market share, he offered distributors better deals. When they approached his corn suppliers, he signed exclusive contracts. When they began to build brand recognition with their products, he focused more on advertising. He was winning the breakfast war decisively. John's company, by contrast, was failing. By 1920, Sanitas was barely surviving. John had spent years in legal battles trying to stop Will. He'd wasted money fighting instead of building distribution networks. His monopoly on the original idea meant nothing when customers preferred Will's version. Before we continue, let's review. So, John had a monopoly, right? He controlled every decision at the health resort. Exactly. And Will wanted more market share. He wanted to sell cornflakes everywhere. Their relationship turned into a hostile takeover. Not of a company, but of their family. Yeah. And John claimed the recipe was his intellectual property, but Will didn't agree. To grow his business, Will needed better distribution. He had to send cornflakes across America, and his signature gave him brand recognition. Customers trusted the Kellogg name. Later, Will used acquisitions to buy smaller cereal companies. He also had to work with suppliers for corn and sugar and distributors to reach stores. Don't forget, he had to negotiate constantly. Prices, deals, everything. Right. Those words are the real business tools in this story. Now let's go back to the story. The legal war ends. In 1921, the courts finally made their decision. Will Keith Kellogg had the legal right to use the Kellogg name on his cereal. The recipe was not John's intellectual property alone. Will had an equal claim to it. It was a complete victory for Will. After 15 years of legal battles, he had won. He controlled the Kellogg brand. He had the largest market share. He had the best distribution network. His brand recognition was unmatched. John had lost everything. His company collapsed shortly after. The famous doctor who had created cornflakes ended his life with almost nothing, while his former assistant built a billion-dollar empire. The hostile takeover was complete, not of a company, but of a legacy. Will had taken John's invention and transformed it into something John could never imagine: a global business. Beyond cornflakes, Will didn't stop with cornflakes. He understood a crucial business principle: never rely on a single product. In 1928, he introduced Rice Krispies. He had to negotiate with rice suppliers in the South. The distribution was challenging. Rice cereal was new and stores were hesitant. But Will's brand recognition helped. Store owners trusted the Kellogg name. He created All Bran for health-conscious adults. He developed corn pops for children who wanted sweeter options. Each product targeted a different market share of the breakfast business. His competitors watched nervously. Companies like Post and General Mills tried to keep up, but Kellogg's dominated. Will had established a near monopoly on innovation in the cereal industry. By 1930, Kellogg's controlled nearly 40% of the American cereal market. That's an enormous market share in a competitive industry. His distribution network reached 21 countries. He had contracts with thousands of distributors worldwide. His brand recognition was global. The acquisition strategy. During the 1920s, Will made another smart move. Instead of just competing, he started buying smaller cereal companies. a business strategy called acquisition. When a small competitor created an interesting product, Will would negotiate to buy the entire company. This acquisition strategy eliminated competition and gave him their distribution networks, their suppliers, and their market share. Other companies feared a hostile takeover by Kellogg's. Will's acquisition offers were generous but firm. Many small cereal makers accepted, knowing they couldn't compete with his brand recognition and distribution power. Each acquisition made Kellogg's stronger. Will wasn't just winning market share, he was absorbing his competition. The Depression strategy. Then came 1929. The Great Depression. The American economy collapsed. Companies everywhere were failing. Will's advisors told him to cut costs, reduce advertising, negotiate lower prices with suppliers, stop any planned acquisitions, survive until the economy recovers. Will did the opposite. He doubled his advertising budget. He continued negotiating with distributors to expand his reach. His reasoning was simple. When times are hard, people still eat breakfast. If we're the only brand they see, they'll buy our product. It was a massive gamble. His competitors were reducing their spending. If Will was wrong, the company could collapse. He wasn't wrong. While other cereal companies disappeared, Kellogg's sales actually grew during the Depression. His constant presence meant that when families had money for cereal, they bought Kellogg's. His brand recognition was so strong that people trusted it even in hard times. By 1933, Kellogg's market share had grown to nearly 50%. The Depression, which destroyed his competitors, made Will's company stronger. His distribution network absorbed the distributors from failed companies. His monopoly on breakfast cereal was nearly complete. The Broken Brotherhood. John Harvey Kellogg died in 1943 at age 91. He and Will had not spoken in over 30 years. The brothers who had accidentally created Cornflakes together had become bitter enemies. John died believing Will had stolen his intellectual property. Will died believing John had held him back for decades. Both were partially right. John had the original vision, the health resort, the health focus, the wheat experiments. Without John, cornflakes might never have been invented. But Will had the business vision. He understood distribution, negotiation, and building brand recognition. He understood that having a monopoly on an idea means nothing if you can't sell it. He knew how to work with suppliers and distributors. He knew when an acquisition made sense. The Breakfast War taught an important lesson. Invention and success are not the same thing. John invented cornflakes. Will made them successful. The winner. So who won the billion-dollar breakfast war? In terms of money and business success, Will won decisively. Kellogg's became one of the largest food companies in the world through smart distribution, clever negotiation, strategic acquisitions, and unmatched brand recognition. Today, it sells products in over 180 countries. The company's annual revenue exceeds $14 billion. It has distribution networks on every continent. Its brand recognition is among the highest in the food industry. Will's signature, the one he put on boxes in 1906, still appears on Kellogg's products today. His understanding of market share, distribution, and brand recognition is still studied in business schools. But here's the interesting truth. Neither brother would exist in our memory without the other. John needed Will's business sense to make the invention matter. Will needed John's invention to build his empire. Together, they created something neither could have achieved alone. Before we finish, let's practice the key language one more time. So who really won the war? John had the monopoly on ideas, but Will took the market share and turned it into a billion-dollar business. He survived every hostile takeover attempt and protected his intellectual property. And his distribution system made Kellogg's a household name. That's the power of brand recognition. People still trust his name today. Plus, his smart acquisitions, loyal suppliers, global distributors, and great negotiation skills made him unstoppable. Thanks for watching English Through Stories. Remember, the best way to improve is by listening again and again. Each time you'll notice more details, and the words will start to feel natural. If you found this helpful, give it a like and share it with someone learning English. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Keep practicing, keep listening, and your fluency will grow step by step. See you in the next video, the story of Coca-Cola.